For example, sometimes our faith can get stuck when it is tied to, say, a person. Okay, think about that. Think about sometimes in the lives of in our faith lives, we might have like a grandmother, yes, that was extremely faithful, and we can picture that grandmother going to church, and we can picture that grandmother praying for us or reading us the Bible or whatever it is. But our faith is tied real strongly to that person. Or even sometimes our faith can be tied to, say, our spouse. I've noticed this a lot in being a part of many congregations and a lot of church life. It seems like quite often there is one spouse or the other that does a lot of the heavy lifting in the faith life and in church attendance and things like that. Not always, but it's noticeable. It's noticeable. I said in the first service that's most often the wife and the husband following along, and I told myself I wouldn't say that in the second service, but it does seem like I noticed that a lot. That the female is doing the leading in the spiritual life of the family, and what ends up happening, no matter who is doing the heavy lifting, no matter who is, it seems to be the one that's taking the point. If that happens, then your faith gets tied to a person, and it's potential that your faith gets stuck. So we got to be a little bit on guard against that, I guess. We also have to be on guard and watch that we don't let our faith get stuck because it's tied to a particular time. Okay? Now that is, I think, got some relevancy because I was a youth pastor for 13 years, and as part of being a youth pastor, you are blessed, I think, that youth is just a time of higher emotions and lots of change and lots of wonderful things going on. And so sometimes you get to be a part of the mountaintop experiences and the really formative experiences. Some of those can even be life-changing conversion experiences. I got to be a part of quite a few of those. Well, now getting a little bit further along in ministry, where some of those kids now have kids, what I notice sometimes on their Facebook posts or other places is where they were fired up before, and again, maybe I'm passing a little bit too much judgment. I don't claim to know their hearts, but just based on what I see, their pictures and what they talk about, it seems like perhaps the embers are not burning quite as strongly or brightly, right? Because it's possible that their faith was tied to a particular time, and now that they're no longer in that season and in a different chapter, it just looks different. It feels different. So we got to pay attention to that. And then finally, I think it's possible that there's a potential for faith to get stuck when it's tied even to a particular place. Even tied to a particular place. And I think this is an especially relevant word maybe for church people. Because even when it's tied to a church. Because here's what happens when you are part of a church, and you're part of a church for quite a while. It's possible that the energy and the attention that you give to the church has as much to do with maintaining the institution as it does with growing your faith. And a piece of that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you're in a particular church for a long time, you're probably going to get asked to be in church leadership, or you're probably going to be asked to help make decisions and be a part of church governance. And so we have to be on guard about letting that be what our expression of our faith is. And it's also, yes, I would say the church is probably the most natural place to live out and express our faith. But actually, your faith, our faith, is more revealed by the choices and behaviors and actions we take and we make outside this building than inside this building. Right? And let's face it, right? To some extent, it's easier to be a person of faith here when you're sitting in pews 2 inches away from people who support you and care for you and want the best for you and want to build up and strengthen your faith. I guess the litmus test for this one might be, could your faith in a room full of people with such vital faith, such life-giving, missional, ministry-minded faith, could your faith be and have as much vitality if circumstances created the need for a new or different church? Now, nobody gets to test that. And I'm not sure any pastor has ever said those words out loud in a sermon before, but give it some thought.